saying no. Tom Lydon from Global Trends Investment says don't say niet to Russia. But David Nelson here from Bell Point Asset Management says the situation in Russia isn't getting better anytime soon. So, David, what are you saying?
What I'm saying is just what you just said. Look, I understand the attraction, to want to dive into a market that's down as much as this is. But to do so, you got to really have a positive opinion on oil right now. And I don't know whether it's going to be 30, 50, or 70, but I'm pretty certain it's probably not going to be 100. And it's important to understand that Russia, this is a country whose budget consumes over 50% of its oil export revenue. As a matter of fact, their budget is based on $100 oil. That's obviously not happening anytime soon. OPEC has effectively committed suicide, so I'm not sure where oil is going to pan out. I just think it's pretty risky for especially retail investors to pile into this market right now.
I mean, not even retail, Tom. Wilbur Ross told me earlier on the halftime show today that for even a distressed investor like him, the risk meter was just too off the charts to go there.
Yeah, you're right, Scott. But however, if you look at what Jack Bogle just said, for the disciplined investor who has regular asset allocation strategies, and again, if you have emerging market positions, naturally at the end of the year, you would increase your allocation to emerging markets as U.S. were down. And with Russia being down even that much more, your allocation might increase 2 or 3%. So for the average investor, by putting in at these levels, when the PE ratio for Russia is around 4, compared to the U.S. at 17, and you're getting a yield in this ETF about 6%, it doesn't seem like a huge risk.
Tom, but there's, by the way, huge currency risk. I mean, are you talking about investing in dollar terms or in ruble terms in Russia?
No, well, with this ETF, you're definitely invested in dollar terms. However, and like anything from this standpoint, it's going to feel like you're catching a falling knife.
Well, you may be investing, sorry to interrupt, you may be investing in dollar terms, but you're investing on the ruble's terms. And if the ruble keeps going down, you're going to continue to have a problem with the RSX and other vehicles that play that kind of game.
Okay, so we have to ask, are we traders or are we long-term investors? This is a very similar example back to 2009 here in the U.S. Nobody wanted to invest. Everybody wanted to exit the market. When are you going to see valuations like this?
Tom, I'm going to jump in here just for a second here.
Sure.
The parallels to 1998 are pretty extraordinary here. I can tell you what's going to happen next. At some point, we're looking at capital controls. If you're a company over there or a wealthy individual and you've got rubles in your pocket right now, you don't care whether it's 17% or 57%. You're saying, get me out. Individuals over there are buying refrigerators and TV sets. That doesn't sound like an economy I want to invest in right now.
Yeah, but David, $400 billion in FX reserve that Russia has, they didn't have anywhere near that last year, back in 1998. And as far as debt next year, all they have to do is come up with $6 billion. The Russian government is fine.
But this is cascading and it's kind of spiraling out of control. The next thing, I guess probably the bigger risk here that we should be discussing, hasn't been brought up, is really Mr. Putin himself. This is a world leader who's gotten more irrational with each stair step down in the price of oil and the currency. This isn't the Thai baht we're talking about. We're talking about a nuclear power that sits on 8,500 nuclear warheads, of which strategically 1,800 are operational. They're talking about moving nuclear warheads into Crimea.
Devil's advocate, Tom, for a second here. I hear from some people who say, frankly, Putin doesn't have a lot of good options. You saw the comments from Secretary Kerry this morning. Perhaps this now gives him the opportunity to, if you will, come to some accord with the international community, receive some funding if Russia needs it, and move past the acute phase of this crisis. Is that part of your argument for buying Russia here?
Well, I think, Kelly, we're not going to know what's going to happen in the coming weeks. It's going to be watching a soap opera. But for the average investor who's sitting at home and saying, hey, it's year end, I need to rebalance and I'm looking for value, we're not talking about a huge risk at this point, because this investment 2 and 3 years from now, I feel, is going to be that much better.
I'm going to defend Tom just for
today.
a second, if I could. Look, if you want to play this game and you think that now's the time to invest in Russia, give it to active management. There's probably some winners and losers here. Probably some that even
a good year for them.
Probably even benefit. Well, I'm talking about in Russia, okay. But give it to somebody who's going to really understand the market. Piling into an ETF right now, where you're just buying a shotgun approach to this
David,
market, doesn't seem like a wise choice.
I'm not
Last
talking
word,
about
Tom?
piling in. I'm talking about long-term investing and asset allocation, which really is the core.
What are you
going
going
to
do after it devalues? What is this going to look like after they devalue, which is highly probable?
Well, do we actually know that that's going to happen? We don't.
They have devalued.
So that's why
This
you
isn't
have
the first time.
currency.
They've done it in the past.
The ruble hit almost 80 to they have devalued. What's your question, David?
So are you?
What happens if they do a full devaluation, and possibly the next step after they've exhausted their currency reserves is a moratorium. That's the real issue here. What happens then? Capital
Control, Tom, last word would seem to be one legitimate concern if you're going to invest in Russia right now, that could be coming down the pike.
Well, I think absolutely. We're going to see some big moves in the next few weeks with Russia, and I would say I would bet that Putin's going to be a little bit more conservative. He's going to have to. Obviously, he's got a lot of pride at stake, but he's got his government at stake as well. And with people in the streets, he's going to have to make some positive moves. My feeling is a small amount is not a big bet.
Well, 2/3 of the people who are voting right now think it maybe is, because they don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole, as they say. Tom, it's good to talk to you. We'll talk to you as well, David. All right, we'll see you guys soon.
Thanks, sir.